to another productivity. I'm your host, Nico Penguin, and today we have a special guest who brings not only gaming wisdom, but a unique perspective on stress and serenity. Please join us in welcoming the incredible Billy Mandarino, not only a gaming guru, but also a stress and serenity specialist. So get ready for a conversation that blends the gaming realm with valuable insights into overcoming the overwhelming, literally, and embracing the power of the now with the nowist, Billy. Thank you so much, Billy, for joining us today.
Nico, my pleasure. Thank you for having me. I'm so inspired by what you do in the world and how you bring gamification lessons through that modality. That's pretty fresh. That's a very fresh take, I think.
And for those that might not know, could you just give a quick rundown of what is your title nowist?
So, a nowist is, I wrote a book in 2018 that came out, and it teaches people how to live in the present moment as a way of life. We're also caught up in the past and the future. And I don't know about you, Nico, but we just this global pandemic where stress was all time high, in the history of the planet. So I think these teachings and this that I've been given to teach people to live in the present moment life has never been more urgently needed in the world full of stress and overwhelm and anxiety. And I know in the gaming world that there's so much intensity, competition, and outcome focus. I'm just teaching people how to live in the present moment, detach from that outcome, but present moment energy to guide you and propel you into that outcome because we get so caught up in the past and the future and there's no energy there. It's just a dead energy. So living as a nowist is not a religion or a spiritual way of living. Not a religious practice. It's just a lifestyle practice. You can live this way. It's just the awareness. Most people don't have the awareness of the present moment. They get so caught up in the past or hopes and they miss the sweet spot of this generous present moment.
Yeah, because I remember that I was reading somewhere that it said that if you're depressed, it's because you're stuck on the past. And if you're anxious, you're worried about the future. And so you're bringing a mindset that is distilling us to focus on the now, what's going on right now.
That's exactly right. Most Zen masters, spiritual teachers of all life always teach this thing. This is not a new practice that I've come up with. I've just used it in my life to such a degree, socially, spiritually, financially. It's helped me in every area of my life to detach from outcomes and to get out of the past trauma that I've experienced, the hopes of the future, and use my present moment energy focused on what I want and to detach from it simultaneously. So it's kind of like it's almost like a kung fu. Energy comes at you, you take it on. But in kung fu, you redirect the energy. You don't take it on. Most people take on the
Hmm.
traumas from the past or a trauma coming at you or a situation coming at you, take it square on, and then you're stuck energy. But if you can be skilled and you can learn to redirect and you kind of flow with it, like the maiden how to become one with everything, you live this powerful state that I call the present moment or living as a nowist.
Mm. Now, was it COVID that inspired you to be a nowist, or what essentially got you started on that path?
You know, I was a pretty stressed out human being. I had a lot of past traumas in my life, physical problems. I was paralyzed during COVID. Uh, I got COVID back in 2000, and I was paralyzed. I got Guillain-Barré syndrome, which literally I had to learn to walk again. I spent 21 days in the
Wow.
hospital. I had so much. My body was so this COVID that it gave me this super rare disease called Guillain-Barré syndrome. So it paralyzed me. So
Wow.
my wife and daughter, everybody was threatening illness. But when I was in the hospital, when I had to walk again, it was not me focusing my energy in the past because I've already been studying this because in 2018 my book came out. So I'm touring the world, speaking of events, going to live this way. But when my personal life trauma and so much stress, I said, okay, now an opportunity to walk my talk, to drink all this information, this spiritual
Mm.
teaching I've been experiencing. I got to live it. And so it was the best test you possibly could have had. So I had to focus my attention not on this fear of not being able to walk again, or not on the past wishing my life would be. I had to use my imagination in this present moment and see myself already healed. And I had 21 days in the hospital. I had to learn to walk again. I had to learn to swallow. All of this nerves and everything had shut down because my immune system ate itself basically. So it was a memory by all accounts from the doctor, the therapist, the physical therapist, everybody that worked with me. But when I became paralyzed, I realized the present moment, my imagination focuses on what is I want, seeing myself walking, seeing myself with my family, seeing myself playing golf again and being out in the world, being able to move my fingers so I can game and do all the stuff that I love to do, of my imagination at the present moment and hoping that the future I would walk someday. Here's the rub, Nico. You have to live it every in the moment as if it's already happening now, even though it's an event. I
Mm.
call it thinking about the ends when it happens, when I'm healed, when I can walk back in my life. I'll be happy. I'll be fulfilled. I would hallucinate and imagine every day that I was already healed. And then what do you know? The universe conspires. I heal myself better. I don't have the stress, sadness of worrying that my life's never going to be the same. Generous present moment with my imagination focused on what it is that healed me kind of in this quantum fashion. I healed so fast. It's kind of remarkable to they couldn't figure out how nerve endings healed so fast. And walking out of there 21 days later, within 2 months after that, I was completely back to normal like it never happened.
Wow, that's super extraordinary. That literally embodies exactly what you were saying. And it's as you mentioned, it essentially put everything that you've been teaching essentially right to the test. Like, are your own core beliefs something that you truly stand upon and you double down on it and it came to fruition?
It truly was an opportunity, and that's why I called it. I called it one of my practices. It was a great teacher to me. I wouldn't. I mean, it was really hard on my family and my wife, my daughter, all my brothers and sisters, and everybody that loves me. It was super hard on them because it was pretty life threatening. But for me, I changed it because it was. I called it my COVID cocoon. It's almost like think of a monarch butterfly that's just a rig.
Right.
It's a what, caterpillar, and then
Hmm.
all rigor mortis. And then it emerges this new creatant and has this new ability. And I felt like that's what it was like, that trauma and that experience.
Wow, like that's really powerful that you were able to go through that and you came on the other end in a much more positive light. How important do you think it was to stay focused on the goal at hand and not be depressed that you were in better shape prior to that or anxious about how life was going to be afterwards?
It applies to everybody. It applied to me specifically in this situation because I knew from all the teaching and training that people in living as a nowist, and I just knew that if I could live it fully in my being, not so much in my thoughts, but in my physical body. What happens, Nico? Here's the crazy thing about your thoughts.
Mm,
Thoughts have energy. Everything is powerful energy field. We know in quantum physics right now. They finally
right.
discovered right the God particle, the string theory, the energy at the
Hmm.
base level. It's all energy. So the energy that you are with thoughts to think about what you want and to feel what you want, more importantly, feel what you want, then you attract and you vibrate at a whole. So I believe that I was vibrating at such a different level because my thoughts were seeing my nation focused on myself being already healed. It's like the universe conspired and all this energy conspired to help me because I was already acting like what it was healed. Most people have trauma
Mm,
or they have a physical problem in their life, an accident or a modality, easy to get caught up in, wow, it's never going to be like it used to be, or I'm not going to have the future that I hoped I had because look at me now. I mean, I had one of my first live events 3 years. I hadn't been planning it for a year. I'd written I'm also a musician, written an entire record around it, 10 songs. We were performing the songs live at this event. Spent a whole year in all this event,
wow.
and I was completely paralyzed in a hospital. And I had to go perform, have this day live event. And if I was focused on that not working out, I would have been in such a state. And I don't think my body would have healed. But I allowed myself to live in the present moment with my imagination focused on myself being at that live event, being out in the physical world, having the deck. I couldn't even move my hands or my fingers or arms. I was paralyzed. But I kept seeing that, like string theory or like the quantum mechanics that they talk about now in the higher level physics, that we are
Mm-hmm.
all, when you can vibrate with your thoughts at the energy that you want to create, the universe will, it's called the law of attraction or the law of identical harvest. You will line up with that and then you in your physical reality. It's a crazy concept, but that's what I learned. Like my thoughts living in present moments during that time was the most powerful, like superhuman power. I mean, Batman's my favorite superhuman, superhero ability, comic book character in the world, Batman. I
Mm-hmm.
literally put that image in my head. Like he was afraid of bats. He was afraid of the dark as a little boy, but that be his superpower. He overcame it and then he became a bat in the darkness. And that's kind of what I was living like. I'm going to lean into this and I'm going to conquer it. And it just served me. Like creative thinking really served me.
How do you utilize that experience to channel assisting others with what they may feel is a super life ending, life altering situation? Now that you've gone through one yourself, how do you utilize that to be able to assist others?
That's ultimately been my mission. I've doubled down on this mission since I came out of the paralysis and since I've had over conditions, no limb numbness, brain fog, all these things that could happen. Syndrome. I was very blessed and fortunate. And I give a lot of the credit to the doctors that helped me. But ultimately, I realized it was a 50% of the medicine they gave me in the therapy, but 50% was me having the right mindset. Because a lot of people, as they get stuck in the mindset of poor me, I'm a victim.
Mm,
How could this happen? A wrong thing that's happened to me? But once you get your power back, which is to have to focus on what it is you want, and you can teach people that the first step out of trauma, out of change anything in your life is awareness. Step one is awareness. So I give people to say, wait a minute,
mm,
in this moment, you have a choice. You can think about how shitty it is, how tough things are going to be in the future, it used to be, or you can use the power of your awareness to focus in this moment on what it is you want. And then when you start thinking all five of your senses, Nico, like your senses, you sense what it's like for me to walk again, what the grass smelled like, what it felt like a controller, what it felt like to pick up a remote, what it felt like to grab my wife's hand, what it smelled like outside. I could almost taste the drink. Like I couldn't pick up a drink in like a margarita or something. I just would engage all five of my senses. So I help people that are stuck in past trauma. I said, you have to have your awareness on high alert, that when you catch yourself getting into that bad state, you have to be aware that no, in this moment, it doesn't, I can change what I focus on, what I think about, and what I feel. And when you do that, you shift the energy field. And then what do you know? Things, universal experiences will conspire to line up with that energy. And that's when you change your life. And I've been able to help a lot of people by teaching them the power of awareness, the power of your imagination, but most important, like how you connect. And that's when you really start to change.
Now, since you did grow up in a dynamic household and family, how do you think the complexities that you experienced at that time influenced not only your spirituality, but also your outlook on life?
Wow, that's the truth, boy. You've done some work on me. You know that I came from six brothers and sisters. When I was, my mom and dad divorced, and it was devastating because my mom got custody of three of the kids, and my dad had three of the kids. So I went through trauma. I had some, and I know a lot of there's 60% divorce rate. A lot of people, I'm sure a lot of your listeners and viewers could appreciate that they come household, a lot of pain, a lot of family drama. It's so hard to deal with because as a kid, you're just kind of developing your emotion, your values. And for me, a 7-year-old kid from an Italian family with six brothers and sisters, to split them off, it was traumatic to me. So when I look back on that time, I know now, of course, because I was such a young kid. Thank God My father, who was an incredible role model in my life, just loved us so much and helped us. And my mom did the best she could to know how to deal with this. But as a kid, I look back at times to realize that a lot of people live their life looking in the rear view. A car with a big windscreen and you got a little rear, right?
Mm.
If I'm in that and I'm going 70 miles down the
Uh-huh.
road looking at that rear view mirror, I'm going to crash my car, right? So people spend a
Right.
lot of time looking backwards to trying to go forward. I realize if I allow myself to try and go further and fast down the road of life while looking at my past trauma, I'm going to do, Nico. They just spend so much of their time focused on this past. You got to get in the present moment. 95% of your view is right in front of you, and that sweet spot of the present moment lives. Awareness focused on you here in the moment, here in the now.
Now, if you had the opportunity to time travel into your own brain as a kid, going through the most difficult of traumatic events during that time when you wish that somebody would whisper some encouragement or whisper something to you, what do you think the older version of yourself that is a nowist went through this traumatic event, being confined to a bed for 21 days, unable to move and taste, and essentially just hope and pray for the best, and now that you overcame that, what do you think would have enabled you to have a more positive outlook or be much more positive thinking in that situation when you were a kid, if you could time travel?
Such a good question, man, because I feel like I do time travel. I do. You heard a timeline, right, Nico? Like everybody's talking about timelines.
Yeah.
Timelines is a real thing. That's a whole other podcast. Timelines is there's something that you can actually time travel. Seems like a crazy. You think of it like a type of way. You think about someplace else, but if I my 7-year-old self or the self of 3 years ago, I luckily had done so much work on myself for 3 years ago that it became so uncomfortable to live in victimhood or depression. Much deep work on myself. And they say that the
Mhm.
repetition skill, like in gaming, right? The more you do anything, you get better at it. You become natural. It becomes that 10,000
Exactly.
hours and you become a master of it. Well, as a
Correct.
7-year-old kid, I wished I could go back in time travel, whisper as I'm bawling my eyes out, sitting on the stand, picking my dad over my mom and watching the whole energy thing, tears and the whole trauma that I went through. If I go in that courtroom and whisper in that little kid's ear and say, hey, this moment is going to pass. You have the power to focus on what it is you want. You don't have to keep looking back at this moment the rest of your life, 7-year-old Billy. You don't have to keep looking back and wishing it was different because it caught and you had a hard time in relationships with women. You kind of self-athletic ability because you're worried about disappointing people or going through trauma. This will pass. Just use your imagination to focus on what it is you want and live in the moment. Don't worry about this past event. Let it go. It's this too shall pass, as it says in the book. This too shall pass. Don't give it so much energy. Know that in the moment, focused on what it is you want. Like a 7-year-old kid, I could just focus on the moment and use your imagination and your thinking to focus on what it is you want. Most people don't have the awareness to do that. I've taught this to 6, 7-year-old kids. I've been to spend an hour with them teaching. Here's one thing I would teach kids, and I would probably say this to my 7-year-old self. NOW spelled backwards.
Own. Oh,
So when you're in the
NOW?
NOW now spelled backwards is one, right? One,
Yes.
WONE. It's an anagram. So when you're in, you've won. You've won your presence back. So all you have to do is enter the present moment
Mm.
to win your presence back. But it's also a homonym, ONE, one. When you're in the now, you've won. It's one moment in time that you can focus and take your power back. And when I speak to 7, 8-year-old kids, elementary school sometimes, and talk about how, especially before COVID, I was talking to kids. And then the COVID hit, I felt like I got all these letters from these kids thinking, wow, now spell backward is one. It's a simple thing. And your viewers, your listeners can take it away. When you're in the now, you've won. When you're feeling the present moment and use your attention, the awareness to change your physical state, to change your thoughts, to change what you're focused. Focus on what feels good. Don't focus on what's back in that rear view mirror. You're going to crash every time.
Now, do you think that because you went through those experiences and you do speak to a large amount of individuals, do you think that staying present enables you to plan ahead, or do you think that it helps you stay focused on the now? Because some people might say, well, if I stay fixated on what's going on right now, how do I plan for tomorrow's inconvenience?
I get that question a lot because I know those people are curious about how do you how do you live the now and be productive? How do you how do you
Yeah.
do your pay your bills, do your job, your family? How do you do all that and be a nowist? It seems like intuitive. Seems like it doesn't in time. This time bound, you got to pay the bills, and
Hmm.
you got to take care of your rent and your mortgage. But the reality is, a little quick backstory. Now, it's my main profession. This is my side hustle. This is passion
Mm.
work that I've been doing. I've spent a lot of time and money since the last 7 years doing, and I'll always do it. I'm currently working a feature length film about this concept. We're working on a screen, but
Wow.
it's something I do because I'm looking at other ways to serve people. I realize I've been to 5 seminars. I wrote a whole full length record around this, taught it to people all over the world. I've spoken all over to help people. 10% of people read
Hmm.
books. 99% of people watch movies on streaming service or on the big screen. So if I'm going to serve people on the
Right.
big screen, so my screenwriting partner are making this about hour and 50 minute long feature length film, which teaches people how to come out of trauma through this story. It's a psychological thriller. There's a serial killer involved. It's an intense story, but how to get out of trauma and not go from your past and bring your past into the present, which ruins everybody around you. But to answer your question, I got off on a little tangent, but to answer your question, so I'm a property manager. That's how I pay the bills. That's how I monetize the nowist because it's a
Mm.
passion project at this point. I'm hoping to make it into this overwhelming, business and this opportunity to serve more people globally. And that's the work. But I'm a property manager. I manage 100 properties. I have 15 to 20 appointments a day. And I still have time though
Sheesh.
to be with my wife, be with my daughter, golf, do all the other things I like to do. All the things I'm also a musician, um, writing this screenplay. I have a band. We're working on music for that movie. Like all this stuff to do. And you think, how can you do all this in one day? Next day, I have the next day. It just keeps coming. How do you do it without stress? How do you do
Right.
it without being overwhelmed? And this answer is always the same. And I apply this to my life many times, Nico. It's literally, oh, now spelled backwards is mine. I have 20 appointments on my schedule, showings, uh, meetings, bills, networking, so much to do, screenwriting appointments. I mean, for property, if I do one thing at a time with all of my attention on that, you don't become overwhelmed. What become more productive? You're giving so much of your attention, so much of your focus.
Mm.
I'm doing the thing like right now. I'm here with you. I'm so focused with you because this is my passion in this moment to focus on what it is I'm doing. But I do this for everything in my life. And when you can live that way, anxiety, worry, and the craziest thing happens. Like this morning, I had an appointment, took my daughter to school, had a 9 o'clock appointment, and her car was somewhere else. I had to rush, and I thought, okay, wait a minute. The universe is going to conspire with me. Something's going to move. If I had a 9 o'clock, oh, I'm so sorry, we can't meet you at the bank today because the person who you're supposed to meet with is not qualified. And it just moved. And I didn't have to rush. Like it happens to me all the time. When you can not live with this worry and this fear of like all these other appointments that are ahead of you down the line, or the appointment that you had in the past, like, oh my gosh, I kind of messed that up. And you bring that negative energy into the appointment. When you literally can
Mhm.
have a clean slate every moment, every appointment, you can become very productive. You make a lot of good choices because you're not living in that thinking mind that's full of stress or worry or anticipation. This present moment, doing one thing at a time, you can become incredibly. And I've been able to do that because I live life. It's not just a clever word, the nowist. It's a way to live in any area of your life. It serves everyone.
Now, what would you say to the individuals that they love to juggle multiple things at the same time? They feel like the way to be productive is I need to have five things being done at the same time. If I only do two things at the same time, behind schedule, behind on the 8 ball. If I want to be truly productive, I need to, do multiple things at the same time. But what you're saying is to be more productive, you need to get rid of everything on your plate and just focus on one thing.
That's it, dude. And you wouldn't think how I say this humbly. I manage 100 properties. I sell a lot of property. I was able to commit to create a live event. I'm working on a screenplay. I still record music in the studio with my bandmate for this movie coming up. I'm a world class. I say it's humble, world class father, world class husband. We have a dog. I have plenty of time to be with my dog. I go golfing. I do all this stuff. I don't say it to brag. I just tell you from my heart that this is the honest to God truth. When you live in present moment awareness as a way of life in front of you, the next thing becomes easier. You create momentum. 10,000 hours, you've heard of that. 10,000 hours to master anything.
Yeah,
When you
nothing
do it
else.
enough, it becomes second nature. And then all of a sudden, you master your life. You master your schedule. You master it. You master outcomes that you want to happen. You want to have happen in your life because you're not thinking. The truth is, you think of a car accident, leg, somebody trips down the stairs. You're rushing. Anytime you've rushed, it never serves you. When you learn to be present, you have less accidents. You quit hurting yourself. You quit hurting other people because you're in stress. You're always, trying to the science that multitasking is not an efficient way to live. It's actually doesn't make you because you're not present because you're really
Right.
tangent. You're in these different tangent realms where you don't have your best A game because you're kind of okay. I'm gonna have a bunch of C's. I don't want to be a B or a C at all of them. Why not just be an A and be a king at one of them, the best at one of them? Then you're really powerful. You like cut like a laser through every one. And then you're not exhausted because your energy is all spread out over the next appointments that I have after 12 today. Or man, I messed up this last one and I don't think that's going to work out. And then your energy's back there. So most people that multitask don't have efficiency because they're not really all there.
Right. Right. Oh, that's so true. That makes me think of the $1 million question. How do you stay focused and avoid distractions?
When you live in now, this is craziest thing. You have to live it to experience it. But I've lived it and I've taught a lot of people to live it as well. To be a nowist, like I want to create this legion of nowists where people live way as a way of life because it's so freaking fun. It's so free, simple. Like, oh, sure, Billy, just you've been doing it. You teach it. You've got this whole life that you created. Well, I didn't have nothing, Nico. I came from zero. My mom and dad got divorced. It was so hard. I love my dad with all my heart. He's been married 5 times. He's every time he just boom. So it was college. I didn't go to college. Like it was always on me to make my life. So I came from zero. That only happened when I decided, okay, I'm not going to live in my past trauma anymore. I'm going to give attention to what it is I want. I'm going to what I want in this moment. I'm going to use the power of what's called your subjective attention, your subjective imagination. In this moment, focus on what I want. I'm not going to allow myself to think about what I do not want. There's a wonderful teacher he's the father of self-actualization. He passed away in 1972, but he taught that actualizing people put their attention on what they do not want to manifest. You only focus on what it is you want, and you have to detach from the outcome. There's the rub. You have to think about it, but not happen like in 2 months, or it's got to happen this year. I've got to make this much money. I've got to get in a relationship. I've got to get the house. I got to get a better place to live. I got to buy a car. Like you cannot live in the future. You have to live in the moment, seeing it as if it's already done. And then what happens is you get the energy because you're not down regulating the energy in your body through stress, through cortisol hormones that flood your system. Like most people, when they're in stress, you get in this tense mode. Then your vibration, your thoughts aren't clear. That's why living in the present moment, I've been able to create living this way. And then the craziest thing happens. You know what a synchronicity is, Nico?
No, do tell.
Synchronicity. Jung. You ever heard of Carl Jung? A psychologist.
Yes.
And he coined that phrase. It means that random happenstances, like these random events that happen in your life, are not random. You are helping to conspire with the universe to make them show life. It's like if I tell you, hey, Nico, tomorrow I want you to freaking, I don't know, a free Starbucks coffee tomorrow. I want you just to put your attention when you go to bed tonight that someone's going to come tomorrow out of the blue and say, hey man, I got 2 bucks. Here's one for you. Like you start to, and you start to go to sleep tonight and you would imagine someone's going to offer you tomorrow throughout the day a free Starbucks. Like you or I don't even know if you do Starbucks, but I'm just saying if you put your attention on something and you focus on it and you detach, but you just feel it. You tasted the coffee. If you love Starbucks, if you love coffee and you like could smell it, did that, lo and behold, either a Starbucks sign would show up in your face, or you get an ad on your phone, or someone would physically give you a cup of coffee from Starbucks. That's called synchronicity. You think, oh, that's, remember this, energy flows where whatever you put your attention on will expand and will
Mm.
collapse on that. So you have to really be focused on what, that's why the power of your awareness is so important. What do you focus on
Mm-hmm.
consistently? It's the law of attraction. So whatever you focus on gets bigger. So if you want to have more money, if you want to win the next tournament, if you want to create a great tip or get in shape or what, you just have to put your awareness there consistently. And then the rest of it will just conspire. The universe wants to help you. That's called synchronicity. And I call them spiritual breadcrumbs. Those spiritual breadcrumbs to the next thing in your life.
So to recap, it's essentially, in order to do that, it's like you have to put like a spiritual blinders on, like how racehorses do. Like, just stay fixated on your race, on your particular task in this particular moment. Don't be thinking about the present, about the past, about the future. Stay focused on the present and stay focused on this current thing that you're either thinking or doing about, in order to not get distracted or not detoured completely, or try to do 15 things at a time and not do anything well at all, but staying so focused and locked in that you can make tremendous progress in a finite amount of time.
That's brilliant. I've never heard anybody say spiritual blinders. I think that's wonderful. That's what it is. It's spiritual blinders, just like the racehorse is a perfect example, because looking at is the end, right? They're just looking at the finish. Like they see themselves in the finish. There's no distraction. They can't even see the other jockey, right? They can't see the horse, because if they did, they would get distracted. We are in this, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're always like in this racehorse mode where we're like, I got to do the next thing. I got to multitask. I got to like be better than the other person. Like I got to outrun. I got to win. And there's a lot of stress. But if you're focused on the moment, if you see where you want to go in your own mind, not don't care about what they're trying to do, you can focus on what it is you
Right.
want, your lane, with your attention and your purpose and your
Mm.
focus. So, like you said, laser hyper focus, you will attract that. It's 100%. The law of attraction is never broken. It's never broken. It's like a universal
Mm.
law. The sky is blue, gravity, right? Water's wet. These are universal laws. One of them, and you can control it. You're more know at the end of the day.
And since you mentioned Maslow, I did take a look at some of the favorite quotes of his, and I did want to run two by you and get your outlook on that. One is, growth takes place when the next step forward is subjectively more delightful, more joyous, more intrinsically satisfying than the previous gratification, which we have become familiar and even bored.
That is who said that?
That was
Who said
Maslow,
that?
Abraham Maslow.
That was Abraham Maslow. Actually, Maslow, of course, he's the father of self-actualization. He just basically summed up what self-actualization is. And if you could become self-actualized, that's when you get your power. Jet fuel. It's like nitrous. It's like your whole life changes. You are the gift that you've been waiting for. You don't have to wait for somebody else to fulfill you. Another
Ooh.
relationship, money. What you can. That's why he created self-actualization teaching in the academic community. But when he passed away in 72, there was another teacher named Dr. Wayne Dyer who picked up and taught that to everybody else in the world, the housewives, the dentists, the doctors, the construction workers. He taught them how to live self-actualized. So I'm picking up that baton from Dr. Wayne. He passed away August 30, 2015. That's about the time I started working on the Now is teaching. My book came out in 2008. So I just picked up the baton from him, and now I'm running with it, trying to teach people, inspire people. The only way to fly. It's the only way to fly.
And the other quote that also struck my chord was, The best way to view a present problem is to give it all you've got, to study it and its nature, to perceive within it the intrinsic interrelationships, to discover the answer to the problem within the problem itself.
Basically, he just described the power of awareness, right? Awareness. That's step one. When you look at any great teacher in the history of the world, they would say awareness is step one. Buddha, Zoroaster, Muhammad, all of them, you go back, awareness is step one, to find peace, to find connection. He's just explaining you're solved when you understand with what it is that it intrinsically you feel in your body. What you know the answers. All the answers are within you. Emerson says, earth is asleep and a forgetting. We just have to wake up and remember what we forgot. And that's what awareness does for you. It lets you,
Mm.
it's like throwing a bucket of cold. Whoa, whoa. Okay, here I am now, moment. Okay, now I can focus on what is. I know how to fix this. I can get through this. It's hump up. It's just the power of awareness, right? That's who you are. That's what you return to.
Interesting. Now, since serving or being of service is your highest calling, how do you approach serving others, not just in your professional life, but also in your personal life?
I'm blessed to have my wife has a wonderful daughter, and she's been raised with this crazy nowist dad, that's been most of her life focused. Truly, like Nico, it's sometimes I know it's tougher because I'm always pontificating and I'm excited like this all the time, all day. I'm just like so fired
Right,
up about
right.
helping people because my mission, you know, our work here on this planet is to be of service. It's not what's in it for me, but how can I serve? And when you way of life, I'm always thinking about PIF, PIF, pay it forward. Always pay it forward in
Hmm.
service to people. My daughter, through osmosis, through being around this, she's naturally become kind, compassionate, magnanimous, empathetic. And I don't even have to teach her. It's just being that way. So when I'm that way in the world, there's Tao Te Ching, that beautiful book, the Tao. There's a line in
The
there. It's
Tao, yeah.
the Tao, right? It's amazing. It just talks about the Tao being like water, but so a man of Tao is kind to the kind and kind to the unkind because kindness is his nature. When that's your nature, you just want to
Mm.
come from service. And that's always been my nature as a young kid. I just was always like, how can I help people? When I was in second grade, they kind of called me like the therapist because I was helping people with their problems. And then my lunch money, I was wired that way. But maybe that's just when you come from a place of how can I serve, not what's in it for me. How can I be kind instead of right in an argument? How can I want more for myself? But the rub is when you're acting that way, the universe gives you what you want and gives you more than what you want because you're acting like great poet says, just look at the sun. No, I'm sorry. Hafiz said this. One of my favorite poems in history is from Hafiz. He says, the sun. The sun never says to the earth, you owe me. Just look what a love like that does. It lights the whole sky. That's service. And that's what I aspire to do and be in this world.
Now, how do you know when it's time to switch to a different task since you're laser focused on one particular thing at a time? How do you know when it's around the time to do the next thing? Since multitasking is true, it doesn't really work. It's not really efficient. And truthfully, I think it was that multitasking is you're really just focusing on one thing at a time, but just switching quickly. But since you're laser focused on one thing at a time, how do you know when it's time to switch to the next thing?
Okay, did you know that your gut has 40,000 more neurons than your brain? Did you know that fact?
I had no
Your
idea.
gut, your gut has 40,000 neurons, right? Your brain has neurons to think, synapses and all these firing and wiring brain. There's 40,000 more neurons in your gut. And you've always heard instinct, right? You have a
Hmm.
gut reaction. You have like, my gut told me to do this. Well, that is how I know how to switch to the next thing. Intuition is one of the greatest gifts.
Mm.
I mean, your imagination is more powerful than knowledge, but your intuition is one of the greatest gifts you've ever been given. And so Okay, I'm focused on this thing. This is what I'm doing. Okay, but I feel like, okay, it's done. My intuition is time to go to the next. You cannot fight it. The thought is the lie, and the feeling is the truth. Remember that. I'm going to say it again because it's so powerful.
Yo.
The thought is the lie, truth. So you have to make a decision. You do not let your thinking mind take you out of your intuition and your gut response. You allow your intuition and the feeling to make you feel that motion to do the next thing. And that's when you get power. That's when your timing is good. That's when you have flow. And that's when you do everything you want to do and just do one. And you don't have to multitask because you're so powerful that the next thing is just going to be natural.
Wow, that you just made me realize something, because if you're fixating on the gut instinct on when to switch task, if you don't end up switching task, now you essentially enter the flow state, and the task that you've been ever so focused on becomes even easier to continue to do, because now your brain is so locked in. There's so many things that your brain can tell you on how to improve in that present moment.
You are more powerful. You know, at the end of the day, I believe that we convince ourselves out of our great opportunities. Was a great quote. He says, our doubts are our traitors. Lose the good we oft might
Mhm.
win only if we attempt it. You know, we just doubt, and that's our doubts come from our thinking mind. Your gut, think about it. You've intuition or your gut that's been wrong. My gut and intuition has led me wrong, not once. Where I thought, you know what? I think I'm gonna go, go on a date with that girl. Or I think I'm gonna like buy a house. Or I think I'm gonna like get that car trip. Like if I allowed my think about it, but feel, intuition is your feeling, your gut is your feeling. That's why it's the neurons in your stomach, gut, because that is one of the most powerful parts of your body to make decision. Why they call it your gut instinct? That's a little clue, which are your gut intuition to make choices in your life. You don't think about it. People do the pawns list, but the reality is let it choose you. Let your intuition choose you. I'm a property manager and a realtor. I say this is you. You don't choose that. You don't choose it. You have to see yourself
Mm.
already there. It has to feel natural. It feels right. If you in your life from your gut and your intuition, you will never make a mistake. It's possible.
And now, as a gamer, I wish I had that mindset, because then, every time I'm playing, I'd be like, man, I knew if I didn't do this, I wouldn't have died. And it's like, but I thought about it, and then I did it, but my gut
See,
said, don't peek, or don't do this, don't do that, and it
then
steered
you
me
did
wrong.
it. You went against it. Always go with your intuition, your gut. It's there, just there. It's your superpower. But most people think, man, we got to be smart. I'm educated. I know how to I know how to figure this puzzle. I know the next level. I know how to get to the next level. I know how to finish this level. And then they get so focused on like doing what they used to do or what they found a cheat code or a hack. And then they lose it because they don't. I chose out of my thinking instead out of my, and that can help you in gaming big time, big time. If you take me away from this podcast, this interview, trust your gut, truth.
Now, what would you say is your favorite part when you do end up coaching somebody? What is your favorite part of the process?
Mm, that's a great question because I'm right now at 11 o'clock today. I had it, and she's dealing with a lot of anxiety and insomnia. I'm sure a lot of gamers can relate to that, right? You're late night gaming,
To a
it's all
100% of that.
dude. You're 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, right? You're like your brain is fried because you got this green. Which when you have this thing called your pineal gland. Have you heard of the pineal gland? The pineal gland
Yes,
is
sir.
what secretes melatonin, which makes you. But imagine it's 2 o'clock in the morning. You've been
Mm.
gaming for like 6 hours, and all of a sudden, like you go to bed, and all you see is the screen. You just see your characters. You just see all these different things in your mind. You can't relax. You can't come down because you're so patterns, which are bad for your health, even bad for your ability to play the game because you're not sharp. You lose the ability to like really connect to your intuition because your brain is so firing and wiring all the time. So this client I've been working with, she has so many problems with anxiety because she has a really bad sleep pattern. And I know a lot of gamers just in a traditional sleep pattern, right? You're on these weird hours because you're gaming with people all over the world. You can get in
Mm-hmm.
a biorhythmic, it's called your circadian rhythm with your thinking, thoughts, and how
Mm-hmm.
that relates to your gland, which secretes melatonin. So I was giving her these exercises to like use your imagination, but also this thing called grounding. Where you go outside, you put bare feet on grass. We are positively charged,
Yeah.
Nico. We are positively charged energy. When you can get the negative
Yes.
charge from the earth or from grass, it balances your system. So just when I give somebody a little tip that no, she's been to psychologists, like different things. These little tips that the client of mine will get, and see they get it, and it's like taking a crazy puzzle and figure like how to unlock it. And that's what it feels because the crazy puzzle, right? There's all these different experiences and
Mm-hmm.
thoughts and problems that people have, and they're different for everybody. So I just have this phenomenal win when I get to unlock like that puzzle that is their brain or all these modalities and these different things they've tried, a medication. I'm not a doctor. I don't claim to be a doctor. I'm not. And now it's to someone who's lived through this experience. But when I can that one puzzle piece through my intuition, a lot of it is just like a download where I can solve the problem. When that happens and I feel like, okay, I just did what I was supposed to do, that becomes that becomes the best part of becoming a spiritual teacher and someone who coaches people is teach one thing that they would never think of. Like one piece of the puzzle, it makes it all worthwhile. It becomes just like the great me.
And for those that would be interested in having a session with you and supporting you and looking for your book, where would be the best way that they can reach out to you and support you?
Well, thank you so much. I the screen here you got my website. That's billymandarino.com. That's the mothership. TikTok, Instagram.com. There's a free, if you go on there and click on, there's a free, become a magnetic, there's a free 5 video series. You just click in, name and email, and I'll send you 5 videos where you all minutes a day and connect with your visualization, how to connect to some of the things we talked about today, and how to do it consistently. But Billy, everything for you. And I have 505 videos on my YouTube channel, all free teaching. So if you want to go to my YouTube channel, which is Billy Mandarino, there's so much teaching there. It's all free. I spent 5 years building that channel. It's just a lot of free content.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Billy, to come here, staying in the now, staying in the present to provide all this wonderful content. If any listener found this insightful, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe because we just received an insightful journey from personal growth, spiritual growth from a nowist. So, again, a massive thank you to our exceptional guest today, Billy Mandarino. You heard what he has to overcome, and he came in and he shared the wisdom on stress management, on staying present, on serenity, the art of living in the now. Kudos to you. I implore you to keep on with your journey living in the now. And you definitely provided so much insight for myself personally. So thank you so much. And if there's one word of wisdom in case somebody still is watching right now that you want them to take away, what would it be?
The most powerful moment you have of your entire day is the present. When you're in the now, you've won. NOW spelled backwards is one. When you live in that present moment with awareness that you're in the present moment, you can interrupt old patterns. You can interrupt stress. You can interrupt all these things that have happened in your life and live with powerful present moment awareness. It's the first step to changing your life forever.
If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Stay locked in. Keep leveling up in your life. Until next time, this is Nico Penguin signing off from A Gamer's Guide to Productivity, learning how to live in the now. Good night.
Nico, amazing. Thank you.